Today's episode of the Bleav in Steelers podcast is brought to you by betonline.ag. Football season has come and gone. The offseason is here. There's still a lot you can bet on in terms of where quarterbacks will play in the 2022 season. A lot of other sports to bet on as well. NBA, college hoops, NHL, UFC, all in full swing. If you want to place a bet on any of the action, betonline.ag is the place to do it.
Whatever sport, whatever category, how much money you got, whether it's a lot or a little, make sure you go to BetOnline to see if you can increase your enhancement.ag.
Yeah, Ike, I'm trying to line my pockets here. You can do just that at betonline.ag. Head to the website or use your mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code Bleav, that's BLEAV, to get started. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, cue the music. It's time to start the show. Welcome to the Bleav in Steelers podcast on the Bleav Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mark Bergin, joined as always by my guy, two-time Super Bowl champion and 12-year veteran of the Pittsburgh Steelers, number 24, Ike Taylor. IT, I'm in the new digs. I'm feeling good. I'm at home in North Carolina. A lot to talk about. We're into the offseason. Football season has come and gone. The Rams have had their victory parade. Still a lot to discuss on today's episode of the Bleav in Steelers podcast. How are you this morning, my man?
Man, I'm good. I see you fresh in the new apartment, in the new scene in Raleigh, North Carolina, man. I'm so happy for you, man. Enjoy yourself. But let's get to talking football whenever you want, Mark.
Yes. So on today's show of the Bleav in Steelers podcast, we'll talk about which is the best NFL team in need of a quarterback this offseason. Quarterback carousel is going to get underway very shortly. Rams had their victory parade just yesterday, Ike, but we start. Steelers have a new offensive line coach, and that is Pat Meyer, Mike Tomlin's fifth different offensive line coach since the 2019 season. So, Ike, I know we both wanted to bring back Mike Munchak to Pittsburgh, but I hope Pat Meyer can bring some stability, some personality, and some attitude to this offensive line that has undergone major changes the last few seasons.
I mean, I think you hit it on the head with the adjective you just used, personality. So I hope Coach Pat have a strong and different kind of personality, an old school personality, because that's exactly what the offensive line needs, especially in the AFC North. If you look at the Cleveland Browns and you see what they do in the running game, they got some kind of attitude. Yeah, the Cincinnati Bengals, their offensive line gave up a lot of sacks because I think the offensive coordinator wanted to throw the ball because they got a guy named Joe Burrow, and he can pretty much do it. But when it came down to the running game, they had a personality. I mean, if the Cincinnati Bengals would have stuck to the run game, Joe Mixon had 15 carries for 75 yards in the Super Bowl. So you can only imagine if he would have got 25 carries. But if you just look at the Baltimore Ravens as well, they got some kind of personality because they're able to run the ball. And that's exactly what the Pittsburgh Steelers need when it comes down to the offensive line. They need some kind of personality, a mean personality, if you want to compete in the AFC North now. Because I just named three teams who can run the ball whenever they want to, and Pittsburgh is at the bottom of the barrel when it comes down to the running game. Now, don't get me wrong. They had a 1,000-yard run at Najee Harris. Najee Harris did his thing as a rookie. He performed as a rookie. But the personality part, which you said is a perfect adjective, something the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't have.
Yeah, and Ike, it took till like week 17 for Harris to rip off a 40-plus yard run. So I hope that can be a part of the Steelers' offense in the 2022 season. Now, Meyer comes over from the Carolina Panthers, where he spent the last two seasons, also has experience coaching the units of both the Bears and the Chargers. So he brings that experience with him to the table. But Steelers were in need of an offensive line coach because Adrian Clem left the Steelers late in the season to take the University of Oregon job. His assistant, Chris Morgan, coached the line for the final two games of the season. However, and in the postseason, got hired away by the Bears 2 weeks ago. So that was the reason why the Steelers had an opening there. And again, it goes back since Mike Munchak left in 2018. When Munchak was the offensive line coach, the Steelers didn't have problems running the ball, averaging more than 100 yards per game throughout Munchak's tenure, with the exception of the 2018 season. But remember, the 2018 season was the year Le'Veon Bell had his contract dispute with the Steelers. So it's getting back to running the ball. It's getting back to, this is why we drafted Najee Harris in the first round a year ago, because you know what your MO needs to be to have success from the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's running the football and playing stout defense, particularly when it gets colder and colder in the months you want to be playing your best football: November, December, January, hopefully February, when you're competing for Lombardi trophies.
Yeah, you said it best, man. That's the adjective I'm just going to stick with, the attitude. So coach bring a little attitude. Coach Pat Meyer bring a little attitude to the offensive line, because usually the offensive line coach is damn your assistant head coaches every time on every team. And the reason why, man, because they have that kind of attitude. They're alpha males when it comes down to leading the team. They have a no-nonsense kind of approach. So we shall see, Mark.
Yes. So the Steelers finished 29th in rushing in each of the past 3 seasons, including dead last in the league in 2020. That's why they bring in Najee Harris, allowed 38 sacks last season. So Ike, I know I've been critical about a young Steelers offensive line when you start 2 rookies in the 2021 season and a second-year player in Kevin Dotson, but you had a lot of turnover, a lot of player turnover. But I also liken it to, you now have your 5th different offensive line coach since 2019. So here's what I mean by this, Ike. I go back to when I was learning how to drive a car. When I was very, very young, when I was 16 years old, I would get in the car with my mom, who would want me to drive 5 to 10 miles per hour under the speed limit. I would get in the car with my dad, who would want me to drive the speed limit, maybe 5 miles per hour or over the speed limit, no more than that, go with the flow of traffic. And then I would get in the car with my older brother, who would say, floor it, man, I got to go 10, 15 miles per hour over. He's got to get to where he needs to go. My point being, if you have different offensive line coaches and you're a young player, you're very impressionable and you're hearing different things constantly from your different head coaches. And so, again, I hope that if Pat Meyer brings anything, not just the personality, but some stability to the Steelers offensive line, that's what I hope to see. And I'll know that this hire is successful if he's around for years to come as the offensive line coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, we shall see, Mark. I mean, it's been a carousel when it comes down to the offensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know if guys are leaving because they're that good at offensive line. I don't know if guys are leaving because they really don't trust what the Pittsburgh Steelers are doing in their run game. So time will tell. For me, I'm gonna go with number 2. You know, if everybody leaving, something ain't right when it comes down to the offense and what the Pittsburgh Steelers got the offensive line doing, because if you've been ranked number 29th, 28th, and 27th, and 30th in the league the past 5 years, that's not a good sign. So Pittsburgh obviously got to fix the offensive line situation. And yes, the stability part needs to be there as well.
Well, that's why I want to give the Steelers the benefit of the doubt, because I've been as critical as anyone about the line play with the Steelers, but it goes back to the draft capital. When you haven't drafted a first or second rounder, dating back to 2012, when you drafted David DeCastro, an all-pro player at the guard position, for your offensive line. And then if you spend $12 million, and that was what the salary cap allocation was for the Steelers for their offensive line in the 2021 season, in life, you get what you pay for. In $12 million, there are tackles in this league, elite level guards in this league, who make that amount of money, who make that salary in one season. And so if you get what you pay for, $12 million, that ranks near the bottom of the NFL. I've been critical about offensive line play, and that you got to open up holes for the running game. You've got to keep your quarterback upright in the passing game. But again, if they haven't had stability from the coaching that they've received too, Ike, you mention this all the time to me when we talk about quarterback play. Whenever we see a quarterback succeed or struggle in this league, first question you always ask is, who are his coaches? I'm wondering the same thing about the Steelers offensive line, considering that Pat Meyer is now the 5th different offensive line coach that the Steelers have had since 2019. It hasn't been that long of a span. Again, personality and stability are 2 things that I hope he brings to the table for the Steelers.
Yeah, it's about that time. It's about that time to get back in the hunt. for the offensive line. But then again, man, you just got to see what the OC is thinking, And I think Pittsburgh offensive coordinator was thinking, man, if y'all give me a quarterback who's somewhat mobile, my offensive line wouldn't be giving up all these sacks. If y'all give me a quarterback who somewhat is not predetermined on where he wants to throw the ball, yeah, then it's gonna help us out major. If y'all give me a quarterback who don't mind getting under center and handing the ball off, because I was at Memphis as an offense coordinator in college, and I think I got 2 or 3 guys at running backs to the league, and they played very well. That's what I think. So now I think at that position, the quarterback position, they're young, so the quarterback is going to be mobile. So that's going to help the offensive line out a lot. And now as a offensive coordinator, man, we can get under center and get back to these play action passes if we need to. So now we got 2 options. We can air the ball off. We can air the ball out if I feel like their secondary isn't that good, or if I feel like their D-line isn't that good either, or their front 7, we can just run the ball the whole game. So that's what I think it was, man. So to me, offensive line and offensive coordinators go hand in hand depending on who the quarterback is. And now it's a new day and age. And yet now they're gonna have a young quarterback, whether it's Mason Rudolph, Haskins, or a veteran guy who can move out of free agency, or just draft, a quarterback. So that's what I think it pretty much was. But yeah, some stability to the offensive line is key. But we definitely need to get back to that mean personality from the offensive line.
I totally hear what you're saying about the marriage between offensive line coach and offensive coordinator, Ike. And the Steelers offense, at least statistically, took a step back from the 2020 season in 2021. The lone exception was they had about 10 more yards per rushing per game. So that was the one statistical measure where they actually improved upon. But if you look at the total yardage, points scored, what have you, they actually regressed in 2021 compared to the season before in 2020 when Randy Fichtner was still the OC. So I'm with you in terms of how Matt Canada succeeds will likely determine the fate of Pat Meyer, the offensive line coach in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, we shall see.
Okay, Ike, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to tell our listeners and viewers about NordVPN. And so got all of your devices, you got your phones, your laptops, tablets, and you need to have peace of mind when it comes to internet security. And so NordVPN lets people do just that. They've got the fastest connectivity, most servers, and next-gen encryption to make sure that everything that you do online stays safe.
Yo, we ain't getting hacked because we got Big Daddy Mac and Big Daddy Mac at NordVPN.com, baby.
Ike, you can get your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to NordVPN.com/Bleav. Use the code Bleav, that's BLEAV, to get up to 70% off your NordVPN plan plus 1 additional month for free. It's also risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Today's episode of the Bleav in Steelers podcast is also brought to you by BetterHelp. And so it's easier than ever to get therapy, Ike. A lot of times, though, it's costly to do that in person. So what BetterHelp does is it connects people to licensed therapists using those same said devices. And so you can do just that with BetterHelp. If you've got dreams, goals, aspirations, worries, what have you, connect with a licensed therapist on BetterHelp and help you to achieve those things.
Man, sometimes you just got to go outside the box to talk to somebody, whether it's not talking to a family member, a close relative, a friend. But if you need some kind of help, man, just make sure y'all can always go, regardless on what your goal is, or just getting something off your mind. Go to BetterHelp.com.
BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist. You don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to, Ike, but you can if you do. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with the therapist in less than 48 hours. So the podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Bleav in Steelers listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/Steelers. You can see that on your screen right now. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/Steelers. Ike, I'm not going to lie to you. Your ad reads are always on point, and I'm trying to match your level, but you're always the absolute best. The GOAT ad reader, Ike Taylor.
That's a freestyle all day. Whatever just comes to my mind, I just try to put it together. So
Ike, the Rams hosted their Super Bowl victory parade on Wednesday. Quite the celebration. Sean McVay saying, run it back, run it back. Aaron Donald saying, we've got a super team. We can bring the super team back. Some challenges with this, though, because the Rams don't have a first-round draft pick until the 2024 season. But with a lot of cap restructuring, they could create more than $70 million in cap space restructure. So what that means, and Ike, the Steelers are notorious for doing this, is they can take a player's current base salary for the 2022 season, convert that to a signing bonus, and then spread that money out over a period of time. So the Rams do have more salary cap space than it appears on paper, because if they restructure with a lot of players, you could be talking about re-upping, and the Rams could go to defend their Super Bowl title, something we haven't seen happen, back-to-back Super Bowl champions since the 03-04 New England Patriots.
No, the Rams got some pretty good running backs, but when it comes down to the Super Bowl, they're not running it back. That's what they. I look at a lot of situations in how they got to the playoffs. You know, Ward dropped the pick for San Francisco 49ers. They barely snuck in against the 49ers. The Cincinnati Bengals had 3 different late drives that the defense did stop Joe Burrow. They just needed 3 first downs to win that game, and they couldn't do it. So when I look at the Rams, man, I look at the Rams like, man, y'all had a lot of luck. I know we want to talk football, and I hate talking about luck against teams, but you know, it was a drop interception that could have closed the game out in San Fran. And it was not getting 8 or 3 first downs with the Cincinnati Bengals on their defense. So, man, this could have went the opposite way. That's how I look at the Rams. Like, I never looked at the Rams as a dominating team. Now I looked at the San Francisco 49ers as a dominating team. The regular season, man, when it comes down to the Green Bay Packers, and I think, you know, since we've been talking about Aaron Rodgers, he will stay in Green Bay, you know. I look at the Green Bay Packers situation. So, man, time will tell. Russell Wilson with the Seattle Seahawks, I don't know. I think Russ really do want to leave because of Pete Carroll. But just looking at the Rams, I never thought the Rams was, you know, a dominating team. Now, getting hot at the right time kind of team, yeah, the Rams did. But I think they had a lot of luck, you know, winning that Super Bowl 1 and getting to the Super Bowl 2. So, nah. Don't mean to rain on their parade because they are Super Bowl champions. Shout out to the LA Rams. Mm-hmm. But running it back, I don't think the Rams are going to be able to run it back. It's hard. It's hard to run it back. And, yes, they can create a lot of cap space, but you look at Robert Woods, OBJ, Van Jefferson, he's still a young receiver trying to find his way in the league. That's the reason why they went and got OBJ, because they didn't see the production they wanted to. If you go on the defensive side, man, the defense for the most part, they did ball. You got to give the Rams their props on defense. They balled out. But they got to get a safety or 2. Linebackers.
Von Miller's a free agent too, Ike.
Miller's a free agent, but Von Miller ain't the old Von Miller. Von Miller was the Super Bowl MVP, but that was 2015. That's damn near 7-8 years ago. Mm-hmm. So I'm not looking at Von Miller like the old Von Miller. Von Miller's really now the Robin, and he has to be the Robin to Batman. That was Aaron Donald, just a defensive specialist. Like, he's the best guy on defense in the whole world. I don't care what team it is. But then you look at, Malcolm Floyd. Malcolm Floyd, he balled out, but they got the young kid, other linebacker. They took out Von Miller for like the last 2 series. Like, they got some nice pieces over there, but actually, like, winning, you got Cooper Kupp. But people don't understand. Without the 1,900 yards the Triple Crown Cooper Kupp did, he only had 1,000-yard season. So this is his second 1,000-yard season in 5 years. So I'm saying, what a hell of a year from Cooper Kupp, but running it back, nah, I just can't see them running it back again. It's too hard. Now, creating $70 million in cap space, that means they would have to be all in again this year, because the next year, that's when the cap space in 2023, that's when the cap space will get hit if everybody's restructuring deals. Now, who they bring in the offseason, man, time will tell. If I think they got the pieces to the puzzles, if they got all this money, they bring some guys in the offseason, because obviously Coach General Manager Les Snead, he know what he's doing and he like himself. I don't know if he watched the parade, but he had that F them draft picks. He had his face on his shirt, and it said F them draft picks. So the man felt like he know what he doing. He finally bought a ring, helped them bring a ring to L.A. So, man, I love the parade. I love Aaron Donald. You saw how chiseled he was. I told you that young man.
Yeah.
At 285, he built like a mutant. Only got 6% body fat. That's something special right there. So, but running it back though, Mark, I don't think so, bro.
Hey, you forgot replacing Andrew Whitworth, the 40-year-old left tackle, to try to keep Stafford upright. And to piggyback off this too, I move out of the Sunshine State and I move away from Florida. And you forgot about the near comeback that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right in our backyard, nearly had against the Rams, if not for Cooper Kupp's excellence in getting a long downfield completion. And Stafford completes it. They kick a field goal at the very end of the game, and the rest is history. The Bucs were coming back in that game. They just ran out of time, and it took a Cooper Kupp miracle play. I don't say a miracle play, but a nice pitch and catch from Stafford to Kupp to salvage that game, because that game was not going in the right direction. Tom Brady was doing his voodoo again, Ike. But as soon as I leave Florida, you forget about that, and you forget about the Buccaneers, a team right in our backyard.
Yeah, I mean the Bucs. I mean, Tom was doing that for the most part, but Tom during the playoffs, he was starting off slow. So he just like you said, ran out of time to get to the Super Bowl. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. That's what I'm saying. I don't see the LA Rams running it back, Mark.
Yeah. Ike, let me ask you this. You played in 3 Super Bowls, right? So you played in Super Bowl 40 and 43, you won both of those. You played and lost in Super Bowl 45 against the Packers, lost in that. In your career, you did not play in back-to-back Super Bowls. You had the opportunity to win back-to-back. Steelers never made it that far. Like, from a team standpoint, you're in the locker room. Why is it so hard for a team to win a Super Bowl and then to repeat as Super Bowl champions? Because it's something we haven't seen now in nearly 20 years.
That mindset you got to have a broke man's mindset. You got to be hungry. I'm talking about the whole team and the personality and the coaching staff. Like everybody has to be on one accord. The coaching staff got to understand that they just came in, they try to prove themselves after the Super Bowl. Like that's how the mindset of the coaches need to understand. The front office got to understand, man, I just got this job. I'm trying to prove myself. That's the mindset you got to have after the Super Bowl. Then you just get down to the players. So are you still on this Super Bowl high 6 months later? Or you're just acting like a rookie, man, I'm getting into the league. I need to improve myself. That's the mindset you got to have. So all 3 phases, the front office, the coaches, and the players got to have a mindset like it's something to prove. Because you can get caught up in being like, every time somebody talks smack to you, man, I won a Super Bowl last year. You ain't got a Super Bowl ring. Or every time you lose a ball game, man, I ain't worrying about y'all, man, we won a Super Bowl last year. Don't nobody care about last year. 2021 ain't got nothing to do with 2022. 2022, man, people trying to come after you. 1, because you are the reigning Super Bowl champions. 2, man, you got to be on. 2, that's the Super Bowl game for everybody. After you win a Super Bowl, everybody feels like that's the Super Bowl game for you. So you got the bottom of the barrel teams feeling like they beat y'all, they won a Super Bowl, and they got hope, and they got a chance. That's the mindset you got to have. Everybody is gunning for us. If you don't have that mindset in all 3 phases, from a front office to a coaching staff to a player's mindset, and you just get complacent, and every time y'all down the game or y'all lose the game, like, man, they ain't tripping. Last year we won a Super Bowl. You're not going to run it back. So that just depends on the mindset, not only the front office, but the coaching staff. So we shall see. But it's so hard to run it back. Then you gotta look at injuries. So you can't have any Keezer or May injuries when it comes down to a full season of football. Like a lot of things got to fall in line to run it back. That's why we couldn't go back to back. But for us, out of 5 years, it was like every other year. So, 1 year we'll win it. Next year something happened. The following year, man, we right back in it. Then the next year we out of it. Then the following year after that, we right back in it. But when we was right back in it, everything was just falling in line. We really didn't have any, major injuries. So That's what it was, man. And bringing key guys back. You know, you got to bring your stars. You got to bring your stars back. So we was able to keep a Troy. We was able to keep a Casey Hampton. We was able to keep a James Ferry. We was able to keep a Big Ben. We was able to keep a Pouncil. We was able to keep a Santonio Holmes. We was able to keep a Heath Miller. Like we kept like some key core people when we was winning. You know, so that's what it was. At every position, you got to have a star. You got to have one star at running back. You got to have one star. Your quarterback has to be the star. You got to have a star on the offense or defensive line, a star receiver, a star linebacker, a star secondary player. So if every phrase got a star, you good, you know. So that like the Rams got a star in the secondary. They're missing a star at the linebacker position. They got a star on the defensive line. They had a star Whitworth, even at 40 years old, on the offensive line. Now you got a guy who. They say sometimes, man, the change of scenery is everything. They say the grass ain't greener, but down for Matthew Stafford, the grass was past green. That thing was turf. So that thing gonna forever stay green if you look at Matthew Stafford on where he was at to where he is right now. And Cam Akers, he wound up getting hurt. Cam wound up doing this thing. And man, we can't say enough about Coop and what Coop did this year. You know, he was just setting records, whether it was the postseason or regular season. So they got stars now. They definitely got stars. So, but everything, the stars have to fall in line, and being healthy throughout the season is everything for a team who's trying to make it to the Super Bowl.
Like, this is where I'm going to flex your credentials. 12 seasons, 2 Super Bowl titles, played in 3 Super Bowl games, 12 years all with the same franchise and organization, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers, which our listeners and viewers know. I've got to ask you this too. After your 2 Super Bowl titles, Super Bowl 40, Super Bowl 43, did you sleep at all, or did you just parlay the celebration on into the victory parade down in downtown Pittsburgh, down Fifth Avenue?
Yeah, after the Super Bowl, man, I mean, we was getting keys to bars. You know, like we changed the city. Like, you know, it's some things I can't say. But man, we were just getting keys.
It's close.
We was getting keys to a lot of things, man. We was wearing the same clothes for 2 or 3 days because there wasn't nobody going home. Like that's just what it was, man. We was living. We you know, man, we was living. We was living. Like when I say to this day, Mark, you gotta slide with me to Pittsburgh one time. Coach Tomlin, he said it best, man. When you win Super Bowls in Pittsburgh, you're on a lifetime scholarship. To this day, that's just how the city embrace you. So guys get out their element, you know. And it's a reason why guys be wearing shades, you know, 7 o'clock in the morning because man, the night was rough. I still haven't slept in 2 or 3 days. You know, if y'all saw what my body has intake as far as like drinks or alcoholic beverages, man, my body telling me. go detox somewhere. But that's just what it is, man. You win that one game you always dreamed and watched. You wind up winning. Now you in the history books forever. They can't take that away from you. So now not only you proud and your family proud and whoever your close relatives or your friends proud of you, but the city is even more proud of you as well. So that parade was a mother. Like Troy jumped off the boat into the crowd, and they caught him like they saw Jesus. They made sure he ain't touched the ground at all. And they wind up throwing him back. They wind up throwing him back on the boat. So that's exactly what it was. Like, we was the wave in the city. Like, ain't nobody have no parade like us. We was doing all picture, man, ain't nobody jumping off no boat. No float, I mean. We was jumping off the float into the crowd, bro. You know, that's what we was doing. Man, they canceled school in Pittsburgh. That's what we was doing. Man, we won a Super Bowl. Ain't nobody got to go to school. Ain't nobody got to go to work. Like, that's what we was doing in Pittsburgh. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just what it was. Like, man, we was on a whole different Mark. When I say we was on a whole different level, we was on a whole different. Thank God social media wasn't out. Because Lord have mercy. We was on a different playing field when it came down to Pittsburgh. Then we go on the West Coast, man. We hit the West Coast. Like I remember we went to New York. We used to go to New York all the time. P. Diddy had a restaurant called Justice, named after one of his sons, right? He was like, man, who the hell are y'all? It was like, man, we the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like every time I see y'all just take all my girls. That's
well, didn't he think that you guys lived in New York?
He thought we lived in New York. Like we was in New York, Atlantic City, Toronto. Now Toronto, we ran Toronto, because that wasn't nothing but a 30-minute flight from Pittsburgh. Like, man, wow. I can't, and we ain't even talking about Atlanta, Miami, Arizona, and LA and Vegas. Like that's what all my connections are. Every city I go to, all my connections are connections from the times we won Super Bowls in Pittsburgh. All
this is amazing. We'll get back on track. I've got one more question, and I know that I'm big on my research. I was reading an interview from Steelers cameraman and producer Peter Gergerly. I'm probably mispronouncing his last name, but he was saying that he was at a Super Bowl party. He was standing next to you, Mike Logan, holding the crunk chalice of Little John, who's friends with Clark Hagan, standing next to Kid Rock. What do you remember about this?
I don't. I had a good time.
So this was after the Super Bowl victory then.
Bro, like us and Snoop, because Snoop is a huge Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So him and Joey Porter, they was super close. So I wound up being close with Snoop. I call him Uncle Snoop. Like, man, the Kid Rock, that's the one in Detroit. So Kid Rock was there, man. The Kid Rock was cool with Larry Foote, Clark Hagan. Like, man, you can't script what we was doing. Like, we was like rock star. I understand this saying now. Rock star lifestyle might not make it. Because when you're living like a rock star, you don't know if you're going to make it to the next hour, minute, day, or second. That's what we was doing. We was living in the moment.
I kind of want to get you in trouble for something that happened decades ago. So we will move on. A lot of teams need quarterbacks this offseason, and we've undergone the coaching carousel, which I always love talking about to see where all the dominoes land. But now, a lot of teams need quarterbacks. So I'll give you a list. Take this in any direction that you want, and you could even name a team that's not on the list. Following teams will need quarterbacks in 2022: Broncos, Steelers, Commanders, Panthers, Lions, maybe the Dolphins. We'll see what happens with Tua, the Buccaneers, and the New Orleans Saints. Of all the teams that need a quarterback, and say you're an elite level quarterback and you can decide which team I want to go play for, which of those franchises is most intriguing to you and why?
I'm going to Tampa. Shit, I'm going straight to Tampa. The reason why I'm going to Tampa, I like their defense. They brought a lot of guys back. Coach Todd Bowles still sitting there, a former head coach. So he already certified as one of the top defensive coordinators in the league. And yeah, they lost Byron Leftwich. But what I do know about Coach Bruce Arians, if he wants to take control of that offense, he can take control. But he's going to wind up bringing somebody else up in the ranks as well. And then when you look at their offensive line and the pieces they got to the puzzle, like, yeah, do they need to bring Godwin back? I think so. But heck, with this draft, they got some receivers coming out this draft, and we'll get into this draft later on in our shows throughout the upcoming weeks and months, leading up to the draft. But yeah, I'm looking at Tampa all day. No state tackles. They know how to win. I got a coach who's going to be hard on me. He's going to coach me well. He's going to be a no-nonsense guy. I got a defense sitting on the other side in Todd Bowles, and I understand he knows what to do as a defense coordinator. I got some running backs now. Like, it's a few pieces to the puzzle, and I could be that piece to the puzzle. So if I'm Jimmy Garoppolo, man, if I ain't going to Pittsburgh, I'm damn sure going to Tampa. For sure, I'm going to Tampa. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, yeah, Pittsburgh sounds good. Me and Coach Tomlin, we've been flirting with each other, probably texting each other in the offseason. But hell, I can look at Tampa and say the same thing. I can go to Tampa. So if I'm Russell Wilson, I can go to Tampa. So I'm looking at Tampa as the key. Now, a team who has young studs on the offensive side and a young team is Denver. Denver don't sleep. That's all Denver. Denver is missing, in my mind, a veteran quarterback right now because they got all the young pieces you need. So you give Denver a veteran quarterback, oh, they're going to take off. You give Denver a young quarterback, it's just like, unless he's a Joe Burrow-ish. You give Denver a young quarterback, his mentality has to be Joe Burrow. He can't be a Baker Mayfield. He can't be, or it has to be like a Justin Jefferson. He can't be none of these guys that want to be more than what they are, the quarterbacks in the NFL. You know, if Denver get a guy, the guy mentality, and he's young, either has to be Joe Burrow-ish or Dak. Dak just a quarterback who understands how to be a professional. He's just a natural leader. You're not going to hear too much about him in the offseason. He going to go by the book. You ain't got to worry about him, blase. But either it's Denver or it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But if I'm my first goal, if I'm a quarterback, hey man, let me see what that 813 talking about. That's what I need to see. I need to go down there and see what them boats and see what that Hulk Hogan Beach look like down in Tampa. That's exactly what I'm gonna do.
Oh, I love it. Having lived there for 5 years of my life, we'll meet in Clearwater Beach in Florida and have a day. One thing you forgot to mention with head coach Bruce Arians too, you forgot that he is the quarterback whisperer. So he has a great track record of success with quarterbacks. Did that, and I know Byron Leftwich worked hand in hand with Tom Brady, but that was really a seamless transition going from the 30 for 30 with Jameis Winston to Brady to Super Bowl title, making it back to the playoffs this past season. It's not just Godwin that's a free agent, though. If I'm a quarterback going to Tampa, I call up Rob Gronkowski on the phone and say, look, I can't be Tom Brady. I can't morph myself into Tom. But what can I do to convince you to stick around in Florida to continue your career? So Tampa's intriguing, but can you bring Godwin back? Can you bring Gronk back on that offense? Two huge questions there. I'm totally with you. Go ahead, Ike.
Hey, Mark, they already got tight ends. They got Brake. They got an OJ Howard. So I mean, the reason why they brought we know why they brought Rob Gronk back because of Tom Brady, TB12. Like that's Tom Boy. But yeah, I'm not gonna act like Brake isn't a good tight end. I'm not gonna act like OJ Howard isn't the first round draft pick. So them guys just need the opportunities. Once Rob came in, everybody kind of had to fall in line because that's Tom Brady's man. So whatever Tom wants, that's what Tom gets. But nowadays, man, we back at it. I thought they was just as deep at tight end just as well as the Cleveland Browns, because the Cleveland Browns is deep too at their tight end position. So yeah, man, I think that's a perfect. If I'm a quarterback, that's exactly where I'm looking. Man, I'm telling my agent, and I feel like we got a chance to get to the next level or get back to the Super Bowl, for sure the playoffs. Hey, man, get me down there to Tampa, please.
Yeah, and that's the one thing with Denver, too. They've got a lot of offensive skill position talent. But then you got to go in the AFC West Division. You go up against Mahomes and the Chiefs, and then Justin Herbert and the Chargers. And you might have to win some shootouts. And that's the exact argument we've used for why Aaron Rodgers might not wind up with the Denver Broncos, because of the stiff competition, particularly at the quarterback position and the talent that you need to bring to the table, given the quarterback talent we see in that division. So I like the Broncos as well. They've loaded that offense up because they wanted to make it work with Drew Lock. It didn't work. They bring in Bridgewater, who won the starting job in 2022. Bridgewater now due to become a free agent too. It's like Denver is really just a quarterback away from being a formidable team in the AFC.
Hey, man, I know the Baltimore Ravens still have his restricted rights. But if Huntley slides to Denver because he know what it is and he got some games under his belt, if that young man slide to Denver, they're going to slide their ass right into the playoffs. That's exactly what they're going to do. Because I think the young man understands what it is now to be a quarterback in the NFL. He's a better pure passer than Lamar Jackson. He showed that. So all he needs now is a offensive coordinator who's going to groom him as much as he needs to be groomed with a young perimeter talent sitting over there with the Denver Broncos, Mark, I'm telling you, if Huntley slide his butt over there, it could be an issue for the AFC. That could be another young team, because if you go from 6 up, you looking at excuse me, you looking at Derek Carr and company. Then after Derek Carr, you're looking at Justin Herbert and company. Then after Justin Herbert, you looking at Lamar Jackson and company. Then after Lamar Jackson, you looking at Joey Burrow and company. Then you're looking at, after him, you're looking at Josh Allen and company. Then after Josh, you're looking at Patrick Mahomes and company. So when you want to say deep at that quarterback position in the AFC, them boys six quarterbacks. That's 6 teams I just named with some good quarterbacks, and I'm putting Derek Carr at number 6.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to a 1920s baseball reference. That's like Murderer's Row, Ike, of a who's who of elite quarterbacks, all stacked in the AFC.
Stacked, young. The oldest is Derek Carr, and Derek Carr is considered still young in his prime. Man, Patrick Mahomes, Joey Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Derek Carr. Like, man, that's Josh Allen. I mean, come on, man. Sometimes, like, I was thinking about this offseason. I said, man, I wish they trade like 3 of them quarterbacks out of the AFC so they can go to the NFC. So they ain't got to keep fighting. It's like brothers just keep fighting each other. That's all the AFC about to be. Like, they're going to love each other. They're gonna rock with each other. But it's like brothers just fighting each other. Like, bro, why y'all got to keep fighting, bro? Mom and daddy keep giving us whoopings. We got to keep fighting because that's how deep the AFC is. Like, ain't nobody really fighting in the NFC.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
saying? Yeah, well, and Ike, when we talk about this in like 10 or 15 years and we look back on this, it's going to be like, well, this quarterback in the AFC wasn't a Pro Bowl or he wasn't an All-Pro. And it's like, let's try to figure out why. Oh, it's because he's going against Patrick Mahomes. Oh, he's going against Joe Burrow. Oh, he's going against Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Derek Carr. Not all of them can be All-Pro and Pro Bowlers, is my point being. So when we look back on this and we look at the talent specifically in the AFC, something that the NFC really doesn't have in terms of young stud quarterbacks.
Yeah, they deep over there in the AFC, Mark. Them boys are super deep in the AFC. In 10 or 15 years, me, you, and Miss Courtney, they're going to be giving us millions. Y'all heard that Bleav Steelers podcast. So, man, we're going to be eating. We're going to be talking good. Everything, we're going to be all the way good because that's what we headed.
Like, really quickly, I want to make the case for each of the other teams on the list. The Steelers, you get the offensive line right. I think the Steelers do have position at the skill position players, a stout defense. You've got 2 players in their prime in TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward on the defensive side. So let me go through and make the case, and I'll ask you which stands out at the very end. The Commanders, I think you have a stout defense over in Washington, Chase Young and company that you can rely on. Team that made the playoffs 2 years ago despite very shaky quarterback play, and that led to the emergence of Taylor Heineke. They're in need of a quarterback. Panthers, you've got maybe the best back in the game when healthy in Christian McCaffrey. He struggled with injuries the last few years. The Lions, you're going to be protected for the next decade with Penei Sewell at the left tackle position. He's going to be a stud. The Dolphins, no state income tax, new head coach, fresh start. Jalen Waddle's pretty good at the receiver position. And for the first time since the 2003 season, the Dolphins have had back-to-back winning season. We already went through the Bucs. The Saints are really the toughest sell, Ike. And it really depends on if Thomas, the receiver, can come back. But you're in salary cap hell at $73 million over the cap. So that's the one where it's like, it's tough for me to make the case for the New Orleans Saints. But of all of those remaining teams, do any of them stand out to you? Because we talked at length about the Broncos and we talked about the Bucs. Who stands out from that list? Which team?
Miami. Because I'm thinking they quietly, they have probably one of the best secondaries. Miami. They got a good shot. I'm so mad they let go of their head coach because I thought on this year right here, it's all good. But I'm looking at Miami, and I'm trying to. Tua is a great guy. Do I think he's the answer for the quarterback for Miami? No. That's another good fit too, Mark. I mean, honestly, if I'm Aaron this Tampa, if I'm Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, you 100% right. I'm looking at Tampa and I'm looking at Miami. I need to see who the OC. I got to see who the OC is. I need to see the OC. I need to see the resume of the OC for Miami. But Miami is not.
Yeah, and Tua is under contract for the next 2 seasons. Ike, the Dolphins could decide to pick up the 5th-year option as well on his rookie deal. Really just kind of depends on how he plays. I'm with you. I haven't seen it so far, but he's going to get every opportunity to prove himself as a first-round draft pick of the Dolphins. But Dolphins also have a lot of first-round draft picks, so if they decide Tua is not the guy, they could also go through the draft to get someone as well to replace him as well. Dolphins do have options there. And Ike, we both know this, having lived in Florida, no state income tax in the Sunshine State either.
None. Now, why you think I'm just sitting here? I ain't going nowhere. I'm gonna let you travel. You use the young stud, so I'm gonna let you 5 and travel. Me, I'm sitting my butt in the 407, and that's Orlando, Florida.
Ike, save me a margarita, a one-of-a-kind Corona cigar, and some shrimp nachos. I didn't know I was doing it wrong all along, Ike. I posted the picture. It's on Instagram. Met up with you in Orlando on my way to North Carolina. And thank you for the tacos, Ike, and everything. They were delicious. But I didn't know I was doing nachos wrong all along. I thought, beef, you could throw on chicken. No, I'm telling you right now, put seafood on your nachos, specifically delicious Gulf-caught shrimp, like the size of your fist, Ike. I've been doing it wrong all along. Thank you for showing me that, and thank you for your hospitality in Orlando.
Hey, no problem, Mark. Hey, Mark, but we say shrimp differently around here. We say scrimp.
Okay, learning something new today.
We take the H out and we put the C in there. So, man, make sure you put the scrimp on your nachos. Another thing, too, I got one more. This is what I had last night. So I didn't put the scrimp on my nachos. I put the salmon. They shredded up the salmon on my nachos. Ooh.
Ike, I might have to slide back down to the O to try that out.
Come slide through.
IT, you're the absolute best. Thank you so much. Again, this is one of my favorite things I get to do each week is talk with you. I want to thank the Bleav Podcast Network. Check out the other podcasts. A lot of the other shows, Ike on Radio Row, talked to a lot of great people there, including the Charity Stripe, talked with Pat McAfee. So check out that interview and that conversation there as part of the Bleav Podcast Network, the Charity Stripe. And I want to thank our producers at Brinks TV, led by John Brinkus, Courtney Vargas, Herbert Diaz, and the crew over there. Today's sponsors, BetOnline, NordVPN, and BetterHelp. And I want to thank you, the listeners and the viewers of the Bleav in Steelers podcast. Thank you for tuning in to listen and watch our podcast.
I want to thank all our sponsors. I want to thank everybody who's behind the scenes. I want to thank you, Mark, as well. But, man, we definitely got to give a huge thanks to the viewers and subscribers. Make sure y'all give us a 5-star. Appreciate y'all.
For Ike Taylor, I'm Mark Bergin. Thank you for listening and watching the Bleav in Steelers podcast. We will see you next week. Until then, take care and so long, everybody.
Peace.